Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And so Neeraj, as I said, needs no introduction. He's the general manager IT of Havells India, and he has played different senior roles across the industry, including in EXL. So today's objective is to ask, rather prompt Neeraj with questions, and
Okay.
and then I will prompt and I will sit back and we will all hear Neeraj, his point of view, his leadership point of view, his thoughts on the topic at hand. And my objective, and I'm sure all of our objectives, is to learn from his experience. And in the end, also ask him some questions on what are his advice, how would he do it, right? So it's an excellent opportunity. So with that, Neeraj, data security has evolved to be the central theme for CISOs today. And not just CISOs, even at a level of the board of directors and audit committees and CEOs, there is increased appreciation that data is one of the key assets of the modern enterprise. And securing it is one of the core functions that the technology team does. So how has the importance of data security evolved at the CXO level in your organization over the past couple of years? Right? How do you measure it? Is there any one metric or any one or two triggers that cause the CXOs to say that yes, Neeraj, let's do it?
So, basically data is I would say the data is the heartbeat for any organization. And nowadays, because of AI, data is the not only asset, but a key responsibility and accountability. And going forward, coming privacy laws, where we have both PII and non-PII data. Because to run a business, to run a revenue, you need data. So if I talk about from my initial experience till date, the biggest problem I have seen is the segregation of data plus the consolidation of data. Both strategies are lacking, which is now building over the period of time. So these two terms seems to be very contradictory, but let me explain with the help of my experience. So segregation means we should know business data vertical wise, sales data, finance data, service data. That segregation should be there in a perfect way. Secondly, all the data should have a common data lake, both structured and unstructured data. So the problem with the organizations today is both structured and unstructured data is diversified. Structured data is consolidated to some good extent because of RDBMS or SAP kind of databases. But unstructured data, nobody knows where it is. And we all are starting investing on the cybersecurity, data privacy, technical controls, frameworks, but nobody's bothering about that data only. We are thinking that after applying a particular control or a framework or a technology, we are protected. But my dear friends, we know where our data is and what type of data we have and what value it is giving to the business. So one thing might be people may have a disagreements or an agreement. We are looking each and every role in the organization. We are hiring people on those roles, but we are missing a role, data architect today. And it was missing earlier also. And this data architect role is so much critical because it will help you in both consolidation and segregation of the data and how a data structure should be in an organization. No garbages, no duplicacy of data, no incomplete data. So data quality should be maintained. And nowadays, because of artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence consume data, it's the food for AI. We are investing in every domain, but we are not investing in data management or data architect management. So what I've learned from my experience in different organizations that I have started as a leadership and a contributor role. and over the period of time as an entrepreneur role, I would say, in the data management part. Because when we talk about leadership, you touched a point on leadership. We may have hundreds of jargon words. One simple word is entrepreneurship. Simple. Think like it's your business. If it's not own business, you will always do the responsibilities, accountabilities, XYZ. So entrepreneurship mindset with data management and data architect is the need of the hour, because your artificial intelligence, your privacy, your cyber security, your risk management will get flunked, or you'll do over investments or overlapping investments if your data management is not in place. So people should start focusing on that heartbeat, that blood of the organization, which is the revenue generator, I would say.
You bring up a very good point, Neeraj, that data is now the heartbeat of the organization. And you also talked about how different parts of the business, like sales, they generate their data, production generates their own data, operations, their own data. So data security seems to be as much an issue of culture of different parts of the business knowing, being aware, data security aware, and contributing to creating an architecture that makes data management possible and data security easier, right? So the question to you is that how do you go about building this culture across your organization, and what advice would you give to others in terms of building this data aware culture?
So it's a very good question, I would say, Surta. So let me tell you straight from the heart, not the polishing and do a beautify. You do user awareness program, you do a lot of education to the employees. These all are required time to time and on regular basis. But the main problem we are missing is, as a CISO or head of cybersecurity or head of privacy, I would say, we are totally focusing on compliance, which is important and need of the hour. But we are missing, or we are not able to balancing the leadership role into it. Don't go and don't take it anything wrong in that. Leadership and compliance or governance should be balanced. Why it is important? If these two are balanced, then we can think from the business standpoint also, and also ensure compliance should meet. So to educate about to users about data awareness or data management, only simple communication will not help. Cross functional, or I would say enterprise risk management, is the need of the hour. Today we are running silo organization in the name of cybersecurity or privacy, and we want business should support us. We want to deploy zero day vulnerability in a second, and we want to deploy critical patches in few hours. But my dear, the problem is we don't have risk management at the enterprise level. We have a risk management at the cyber security or IT level. We will never get success. You do flyers, you do training from third parties, you do whatever you want to do. Unless and until you have a risk management at enterprise level where cross-functional teams assess their risk and create a risk matrix, this is the only success criteria. There is no shortcut. No tool, technology, framework will help you.
You you touched upon a point that has, in my personal career, also been probably one of the biggest opportunities and in biggest challenges, right? Which is how to create the right context, business context and business awareness across the organization, and not be over pivoted to just being a siloed organization focused on compliance. So when it comes to these kind of prioritization at a business level, right? I mean, sales wants to maximize sales. That's all they want to do. Manufacturing wants to manufacture 24/7 at minimum cost. That's what they want to do, right? So each part of the organization have their priorities, and the program needs to overlay across all of them. So how did you go about, in your experience, how did you go about managing these competing priorities? How did you go about creating the structure that allowed competing priorities to be balanced in a holistic way so that everybody thinks about data security as their business need, not just something that the IT guy needs to do in his corner of the world and just don't bother us.
So, in my initial two responses, I talked about data architect part, and in the second question, I talked about enterprise risk management part, and also touched leadership and governance, balancing of both roles by CISOs or privacy officers or AI officers. So, in line to that part, I would like to highlight, if you do an enterprise level risk management, then all the leaders from the cross functional team sits together and draft their risk and their business priority. And you will do a solutioning accordingly. So simply you have to work as a, if I further down the line simplify entrepreneurship, which I initially talked about. So we have to work as a solution manager, not as a project manager. There's a big difference. Because in project manager, you do tick in the box, you check what went well on time, what not went well on time. As a solution manager, you only talk about what risks are open and how to address it. What are my business risks? What is the technology I need to implement? What is the privacy I need to take care? What is the cybersecurity I need to implement? So instead of asking management or a board member for a funds for a cybersecurity and create hundreds of PPT for the justification, go with the business with the management and say, this is the business requirement. This is the risk in the data, in the service side, in the sales side. This is the consolidated or a unified platform in the cybersecurity. We are hiring it. It will address these four controls, which is a part of enterprise risk management risk metrics, and we want the budget accordingly and implement it. This is the way you can only prioritize the set. Set the priorities on the topmost risk, moderate or lower risk. You can run at organization, not at organization level, but the functional level, which is okay. But top risk should be cross-functionally assessed and reviewed. This is the only way to prioritize. Else everybody will run its own business. If everybody will run its own business, there will be no consolidation. Running own business is not the problem. Consolidation and collaboration is the problem. That is the gap. We are running silo shops. We have to run the integrated shops. Simple as that.
Very good point. I think all of us in this field can relate to that. So when you tried this approach, Neeraj, did you face any resistance? Did you face any pushback? If so, how did you manage that?
See, it's a journey. It's not a cakewalk, honestly speaking. So, for example, if you stay in an organization for 6 to 7 years or 8 years or 10 years, depend on the current environment and the culture and the gaps, and then you start contributing it. So it may take a couple of years to build that journey, because business don't have any problem. First, understand it. Business has only concern when we apply technology on them, because they don't understand the technology. We also we want to buy a tool that will help you. We want this information from you. We flunk. Why should we tell that? Now, forget technology, forget framework. What is your key? Why you want to invest in cybersecurity? To protect your user's identity and your data. There is no third thing. So let's understand data, let's users behavior, and then invest accordingly. Na? And definitely they will have a resistance. They will hesitate. They will not responding timely because of their own priorities. It will happen. But once you set the protocol with the help of leadership, you set the boundaries, you set the review pattern, and you repeat it continuously, improve on that part by taking regular feedbacks, you will get management support, you will get board support, and it's a journey of few years. Maybe for some organizations, few months, like startups. For a big enterprise, it may take a couple of years, depend on their maturity level. So end of the day, your entrepreneurship, governance plus compliance hat, in line to these directions will only help. Don't think that anybody else is working in the organization except you. Then only you are entrepreneur. Else you are not. It's our baby, na? When sales revenue will increase, sales head will get appreciated. Cyber incident will happen because of sales team. You will get blamed. You will be held accountable. So treat it like a baby.
So one of the feedback I have received, and I'm sure many of us have heard that, is that you IT guys, you cybersecurity folks, you are always in a rush to solve today's problems right now. Right? Doing, you are always busy, solving a crisis that is already on our head. So why don't you build for the future, right? Why don't you look ahead 2, 3, 4, 5 years and have a forward looking roadmap? Now with data security, we seem to be in a place where
Absolutely.
we can do it, right? So what is your point of view? How should, as a community, we look at the future and do a long term roadmap around data security?
So let's think as a strategy standpoint. Forget about data security for a minute. It's identity also. We need to protect identities also, whether it's in the user identity form or a laptops or a desktop which we assign to users. They should also be protected. Apart from data, data is the core, that is the central part, but data flows over network, data resides on the storages, access over the PCs, laptops, mobiles. So you need to protect everything. Again, 100% assurance that you will proactively identify and mitigate all the risk early is a myth. Let's accept, then only you will build the resilience. But you should only identify those risks in early stage. You should do, if you do a proper risk management enterprise wide, again I'm coming back to that point, what the benefit you will get, you will proactively identify all the risk in early stage with the help of all the business stakeholders and present to the management, and everybody will aware that it's a risk. Anything happen, everybody will be aware that this may happen if we lose this, whether it is signed of risk or not signed of risk. To avoid surprises, the few transactional things, upgrade of the infrastructure, validation of the PCs, preparation for something new unknown coming should always be there. But cross-functional risk assessment, that is the beauty with with the help of my experience and explaining you will be able to cater 90+% of the critical risk in early stage. And every organization wants to invest in latest technology in early stage. Today, if a product is costing X amount, tomorrow it will be X square, with the more risk, because you are more prone to the more cyber attacks, because you have not adopted that technology or a process or a framework early. How you will do that? With the help of only effective cross-functional risk assessment. So instead of directly buying a product, starting evaluating a POC with 3 vendors, 12 partners, don't do that. It's of no use, because end of the day, in the entire year, you will end up with the POCs, learning 20 products, buy only one, and you will ever don't know whether it is serving 100% purpose or not. Evaluate 4, buy 2, that's it. But it will be a calculative and proactive risk. So don't run organization in silo again, I'm telling you. Because we are people from cybersecurity, but we started our career in IT. Na? So I know when I was doing the patch management, I was taking backup. What is the problem for me? Why I'm expecting something, a new guy will come and fix it when I was unable to fix it in my experience. So let's be honest. Let's be responsible in that.
So for organizations and leaders who are maybe getting the benefit of starting their data protection journey now, right? They may be a little late, but they have the advantage of not reinventing the wheel and repeating the mistakes that the predecessors have made, right? So to them, what would be your advice? What is one thing to avoid and one thing to get right in data protection strategy?
In that thing, I will talk as a transactional thing, not as a leader thing. So one transactional thing I will say, start immediately maturing your data leakage protection inside to outside threats. That is the most important key. At strategy level, first of all, start assessing where all your data is and start working on the consolidation of data, because it's a long-term strategy. At the transactional stage, you do a short-term strategy, start maturing your data leakage protection. Whatever knowledge you have, documented or non-documented. But at the leadership level, start immediately assessing where your data is. That is the most important thing, which is underrated nowadays. We are investing a lot of things, but we are not keen to know where is the data, what is the data type, and this cannot be run in silos. Sorry again. You have to run a consolidated drive, and it will not only help in for this basic thing. Now India is a regulated country because of DPDP and other acts. IT Act is also maturing, coming in a mature act in next year or so. RBI, SEBI, everybody is following NIST and ISO standards. Let me honest. Whatever SEBI, CERT, and RBI guidelines you are receiving controls, these are, taken all the guidance from NIST and ISO standards, 27001, NIST series of the business continuity and data protection. So start implementing those controls in parallel and start discovering your data with the help of business and understand it is required or not. Just clean it up if it is not required. And if it is half-cooked data, mature it. So it's a multi-dimensional project, require multiple stakeholder and cross-functional team. It may take a year or two, but short-term implement frameworks and do the data leakage protection management in place. And data discovery is the most easy to start with, but the most complex to sort it, because after data discovery, it's a challenge to understand the data. So, but see, there is no shortcut. I do not want to create any false assumption here. It's a journey. You start today. After 100 days, you'll see 10% maturity. After 200 days, you may see 15% maturity, but you will get 80% confidence that you can do it. That's the only key. And
Great
again,
insights.
Ownership. Do it like you are the only person in the organization. There is no.
Great insights, and
So that's
thank
my
you
way
so
of
much.
working. I'm very clear.
So thank you for your candor, and thank you for your insights, and thank you for being open and sharing from the bottom of your heart, right? So before I end it, I want to ask two, maybe three rapid fire questions. You game? Okay. First one, top of the mind for me, zero trust, overhyped or essential?
People are not understanding zero trust. It's a mindset, it's a methodology, not the technology, first of all. So zero trust means from cyber attacks, you have to understand their behavior and protect. Simple. You have to protect identity, you have to protect your endpoints, you have to protect your data, you have to protect your application. So it's a journey. You have to maybe implement a single solution or a multiple solution or a platform like Zscaler or other competitors to mature your zero trust journey. Identity protection, health check of endpoints, application containerization. In case of cyber attack, not more applications will get impacted. Same user experience, whether they are work from home or work from office. Seamless working for those users in a secure manner is also part of zero trust. So it's an entire model you need to adopt, understand first, then you start implementing technologies like Zscaler or any other. Because identity protection, next generation VPN, if I talk about technically, and your application containerization, your compliance check whether antivirus DLP installed on your PCs or not. Solution like NAC is legacy now, so I will not name it NAC, but ZTN is the latest buzzword which gives all this flexibility. Fine. End of the day, it's a mindset. Second, it's a methodology, not the technology. People should understand it, and then only they can successfully implement.
In the interest of time, I'll just do one more rapid fire. Insider threat and insider risk.
Sure.
Overhyped or a serious problem?
It's a serious problem. Let me tell you in the interest of time, very short. I was explaining to someone who was doing some research and connected with me over LinkedIn. See, ransomware kind of attacks are totally behavior based. Now you have a MITRE framework to understand the behavior of intruders. Inside threats are unintentional or intentional, but they are related with the intent. There is no tool who can check the intent of a human. There is no framework who can check the intent of a human. There is no control who can check the intent of a human. So it's always be risky. and it will be there unless and until. So again, it's a cultural maturity issue rather than a technical issue.
Wow, your passion really shines through. So I think, because this is where we open the floor for a couple of questions.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Great insights, Neeraj. Really appreciate that. So, guys, please raise your hand. I will unmute you if you want to ask any specific question to Neeraj. Okay, Mr. Vishal, go ahead and you can. Okay, Mr. Vishal raised hand and then lowered it. Now again raised. Okay, you can ask your question now.
So just a basic question actually. So how gonna you doing your enterprise security risk management?
So see, risk management, if you practically want to start, you have to first of all have an agreement between different business stakeholders, IT, cybersecurity. If you have privacy separate, then privacy, sales, manufacturing, supply, service, whatever HR, legal is the most important stakeholder. So all these stakeholders sit heads or SBU heads sit together and discuss how we should drive it in an organization. And then they can take board's approval and agreement on this. And then you can start working on the gap assessment with the help of any third party or with your own team or hybrid model. And in the gap assessment, you have to choose a framework, whether it's NIST, ISO, COSO, all the three frameworks are available in the market. And then you choose any framework and start identifying the current problems, real problems, not the non-strategical problems. And then only you can start building and then implementing. And then you have a trainings. And every half yearly or quarterly, you set up practice to review those risks and present to the management, etc. So this is the way you may start your journey. And then in the implementing those risks, the technology, the frameworks, cybersecurity technical frameworks or privacy technical frameworks, or the technology will come in place.
Perfect. That's perfect. That's the entire ERM workshop in a couple of minutes. So that's great. Deepak, you are next.
Hi Neeraj, how are you?
Sir, how are you?
Good. So my quick small question that zero trust, as you mentioned, it's a mindset and the maturity model. So would you like to give some input that in that maturity phase, what should be taken first and how should we approach in second, third phase, or everything in one?
So not one go, I think it's a journey, but can be run in parallel. Depends on, again, organization, risk acceptance criteria, and the overall cultural thing. Fine. So one thing is immediately start implementing at the ground level, start implementing MFA if it is not there on the user's account. That is one thing. Second thing, move out from the traditional VPN. Start adopting next generation VPN so that your applications will get containerization logically. And all the applications will be in your control because it is also kind of application inventory. It is a kind of SBOM. You will got to know how many applications are running in your organization, and then you can containerize them and then access. These are the two important things. During implementation, the capabilities are also there to check endpoints compliance health status, whether DLP agent is missing or antivirus is missing or any other agent is missing, which is required. So these are the triangle or three dimensions that you need to fix out. And because data discovery and data maturity itself is a journey, once you implement this, then start your data discovery. And then in the next phase, you start maturing the data architect level.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Let's take one last question. Prashant ji, go ahead, please ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Neeraj, happy Diwali, Neeraj. Acha, as you mentioned,
Happy Diwali.
As you mentioned rightly, data discovery is the most critical part. But today, in scenarios where most of the things are dependent on collaboration, we have too many third parties involved in that. Where we share data either for a communication purpose, analysis purpose, verification purpose, or any purpose. How to ensure that when data leaves our boundary and stays with the third parties or something, the discovery, the protection, the purging becomes very critical for us. So few thoughts from you. We need to understand that how to protect data with third parties specifically.
So thanks for the question. It's a really tough call for the organization audience. Inside data itself is a challenge because it's segregated and not quality-wise matured enough for most of the organizations. When you talk about third party, see, privacy will create a financial impact. Forget about cybersecurity for now. Privacy will create a financial impact and a goodwill impact with more severity impact compared to cyber one in this case. So one thing is start doing immediately. See, currently what we are doing is most of the organizations are doing only agreements with the third parties and sharing their data. And there is no control check. Even you apply a review or control check, you are not sure whether they have purged it or not. There is a technology term which is evolving now. It was restricted to US and Europe up to good extent, but it was not evolved even. It is not now maturing PETS, privacy enhancing technology. Because you sign an agreement with a third party to share your PII data of the employees and customers, they will sign off, but again, it will not give you assurance. You go to court tomorrow, and court will take 1 year, 2 years, or maybe few months. It's a reactive approach. Proactive approaches start implementing privacy enhancing technology, which starts from the encryption, and then your authentication, authorization, and then there are few technologies which are evolving in the organization. What it does, the third party use its tool to access your data, but that data will remain encrypted. It will never go decrypted. So your data will get protected. And start implementing tools like consent management. Because in consent management, you have a ability to run the entire data lifecycle from its generation to its purging, and apply consent management kind of things to the third parties also. Forget about privacy law or cybersecurity. It's the basic need. It's the basic hygiene. It may take time. It will not happen over the night or over a few days or months. It's a journey. But agreement signature is a legal obligation, but it's a reactive approach. You should do, it's a mandatory part, but it will never proactively help. Proactively only helps PETS technologies and consent management kind of tools, where you have an entire data lifecycle technical control management in terms of AAA, authorization, accounting, and auditing. Then only you can hold anyone liable. So, what is the legal obligation of MFA? If I am an employee and I am using MFA through a mobile app, tomorrow if my ID got compromised because of, then I will be first of all held accountable legally in the court, rather than my organization. It just want to cross check if I've shared my OTP intentionally with someone or not. Whether it's actually a cyber attack or inside threat. We were discussing a few minutes ago. I can't hold the intent. So in this way, we can have a better control on the data which is going outside to the third parties. And we should start reviewing their agreements from the DPDP or GDPR or CCPA or PPL, where your organization exists, multi-geography or a single geography. Start reviewing, because all these laws globally now reviewed by the respective governments, and they are coming with the latest updates soon. US is having 50 states, there are 50 privacy laws. CCPA is the most oldest and mature one, or 1974 Privacy Act you talked about. Fine. But end of the day, there is no central law there also. They are also coming in next couple of years, what I gone through certain documents from the government, which are publicly available. So consent management technologies like PETS will give you more proactive approach and review your legal agreements, and start using one tool, external risk assessment tools, fine, which logically assess the vulnerabilities of the third parties, how mature they are, so that whenever they come to you, whether they are big fours, big five, big 10 in their field, you should simply give them reward. Please fix your vulnerability, come tomorrow for the business discussion. And then we will see whether we evaluate you or not. These are not very expensive tools, but it will give you confidence and flexibility.
Yeah. Thanks, Neeraj. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Great insight, Neeraj. Thank you very much. We cannot take more questions. Pawan, maybe towards the end, if possible, we'll take your question, because it's already 11:40 and we have to jump to the next section of DPDPA part. So, Karthikeya, over to you. Let's continue our momentum about DPDPA that we have built in previous session. Over to you. Thanks, Neeraj.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Neeraj. Fantastic listening to you. It was a pleasure, always a pleasure to listen to you and the words that you and the thoughts that you bring to the forum. It was excellent. And just taking a leap
Thank you.
of
Thank you.
what Neeraj was mentioning, taking towards a role where, for example, when the companies have put in place all of this cybersecurity and is looking into the data privacy field, what I want to talk about today under the DPDPA agenda is the customer advocacy. And it's a very, very important piece because as DPOs, as CISOs, we always struggle to actually get the kind of funding we need, the kind of work that we do, we understand, but sometimes the organization or somebody in the leadership will not be able to understand where we are coming from. So we need to talk some kind of a customer oriented language, and I'll talk about this customer advocacy in next 5 to 10 minutes and then open to some questions, of course. So I know most of you already know about customer advocacy, and it basically refers to the strategies where we are prioritizing the customer first. And why we are actually talking about customer first or customer interests over here is because privacy, if you understand closely, even data security or data protection, it is very well tied with the interest of the customer. Why we are doing all this? Why we were building these VPNs, why we are actually handling data properly, why are we even giving respect to personal data? It is all because of the customer interest. And what it ends is that when we are building this customer interest, we are actually building loyalty among themselves. And we know that in today's world, the kind of social media campaigns we run, the kind of work we do in the marketing space, we understand that the customer acquisition cost is skyrocketing. And people who have worked with very closely with the marketing departments, with the sales department, they know how difficult is it to pull a customer towards your brand, towards your company. And this kind of data privacy and data protection, cyber security, etc., the kind of investments we do, if we are able to show them logically, tie them to the loyalty or building the loyalty of the customer, it will really help us because we then these customers will become our brand ambassador. They will talk heavily about the trust, transparency, personalization that these brands have generated in the market. And I would also give you some case studies. So I don't want to give you only Gyan today, but maybe some case studies which will help you. So if you note these case studies down, you will be able to have a very vivid conversation with the board, with your senior leadership, when you are talking about the kind of investment that the DPDPA would require. And that is at a very opportune time because the DPDP rules, as was being mentioned by Vikas, it will be out there very soon. And once they are out there, you will be struggling or you will be asking for more funding. And that is when these conversations about customer interest or customer advocacy will be very, very critical for you. So in next 5 to 10 minutes, I would like to highlight some of the points that you can take over and some case studies from Indian context also, which will help you have these guardrails for these discussions or the structure for this discussion as you go ahead and do that. So it will also able to convince you about the how DPDPA will influence customer advocacy when it comes to it. So the first thing that I want to actually put it out and is that the trust is a competitive advantage. And I can tell you very, very seriously that we have seen that happening in the market. We have seen that we ourselves as consumers, as customers, are going for the brands which are not cheap, maybe which are at a premium, but we have a trust in them. And this goes very well with all the Tata Group conglomerates, with all these big names. We know that, okay, if this is the product coming from this particular company, it will actually deliver quality, deliver us value. And because of which you see that they have a competitive advantage in today's market where there are so many brands which are competing for the same space. So DPDPA mandates explicit, informed, revocable consent for data collection and processing, and the organizations that comply transparently can build deeper trust with the customers. So when you actually see that today when we log into some of the websites, and because of the anticipation of DPDPA coming, they have put some kind of a privacy notice. They have put up some kind of a privacy policy at upfront. They are taking some consent from us. We ourselves see the differentiation. We see that, okay, there are n number of companies which we are offering almost a similar product and services, but they are not really bothered about how they will handle my personal data. And that is which is the foundation of our advocacy, because the customer feels that deeper trust. The customer themselves are likely to advocate for your brands. They will tell their parents, they will tell their peers, they will tell their friends about your brand, and they will also start the conversation saying that, oh, when I went to this Air India website, the first thing I noticed is that they have changed it. The first thing is that they are taking my consent. They are talking about certain things which I never knew, that how they will be using my personal data. So all of this is actually gaining momentum towards some kind of a trust which is being established between the brand and the customer, which is actually ending into a competitive advantage for that brand. And this is where I feel that all these companies where we are actually investing very heavily with, for example, Zscaler, we are actually taking the value that these companies, these products are adding to us, and then we are able to transparently and in a very, very simple language able to communicate that to the customer, saying that your personal data, your data, or you are so valuable that we have provided a very robust framework which is being technologically driven by ABC products, and which is being delivered to you with this particular product and service that we are offering. So that is where I feel that trust becomes a big competitive advantage. A lot of banks, for example, you have HDFC Bank, which incorporated DPDPA oriented privacy by design principles. You have NIC, which is a government leading body, which is actually designed the readiness framework. It is going to every single ministry, what I understand, and building that kind of a trust framework with them. Infosys, Axis Bank, there are many companies which are there, including, if you go for a global example, Apple is the biggest privacy as a brand differentiator. You go on any billboard today, you will see Apple. You will see the first thing you notice is privacy. You see data protection. You see that kind of emphasis, the user control, encryption, how beautifully they are able to tell that with that billboard, that you are taking Apple. No, you are taking privacy home. You are taking data protection home. And that is where I'm coming from. So if you are actually having that conversation with your senior leadership, with the onset of DPDPA rules coming in, I would really love to have this communicated to the leadership, or I would have this kind of visual examples given to them, that why can't we actually deliver trust, and how we do that is definitely using products and the frameworks which are there around privacy. With that, coming to the next point, very quickly, I wanted to tell you about the transparency and communication under DPDPA. Business must provide clear privacy notice. We all know that. Allow users to access, correct, delete data, which is definitely a very important aspect where people would falter. I know companies which are right now under a lot of duress because they need to overhaul their customer grievance addressal, etc., to give the customers rights or users rights to access, correct, and delete, and how that will flow in to their businesses. This transparency aligns with, again, a very important customer advocacy principle, which is you are empowering users. You are fostering that sense of control in them. And this is where I'm coming from. So I'm telling you, the first one we already discussed, that was the trust as a competitive advantage. The second one I wanted to tell you about the transparency and communication, because when you are communicating, when you are giving this transparency, so if you see, for example, Zomato, you see Paytm, you have seen Airtel, all of them are actually giving very clear language DPDPA aligned privacy notices these days. And the biggest one, if you see a global advantage, you will see a global company, Microsoft, which offers very transparent multi-layer privacy dashboard under GDPR, under, as mentioned was by Neeraj sir, around CCPA, the kind of clarity on purpose, processing, and deletion, which are the basic principles which are also mirrored in DPDPA, we feel that the kind of transparency in communication which is being given, it empowers us. It tells us that yes, we are empowered as users, we can have our voice heard, and that's why I will again gravitate towards that brand. I will go towards that company. I will see the competitive advantage coming to us. So that is where I'm coming from, and I feel that the second and the third is the very important one. And I feel that this is a moving part as of now, as I speak, that is around the consent management and the personalization. Because when we are talking about consent management and personalization, we don't, so businesses can offer personalized experiences, but without overstepping the boundaries. I remember there was a discussion going on last night where it was being discussed that, okay, in order to give employees better experience, maybe we want to monitor where they are logging on from. And there's an opt-in feature which has come in Teams, and where you can actually, the admin will know, okay, which device, where is it located, for how much time the employee was on, etc., etc. The thing is that overstepping boundary is a very important concept, because over here, if the employee never knew that this would happen, they would think that, okay, this might be like in a surveillance on me. So we need to make sure that, okay, when we are doing personalization, where do we draw a line? And best is to make it like an opt-in, or maybe a thing where people can come back and tell you, okay, I want a better customer experience, I'm ready to give more personal data in order to get that, etc. So I understand the kind of loyalty programs that these other organizations are running, but still personalization, we should always be having, it should be taken with a pinch of salt. We need to make sure that we have a lot of information, or I would say a lot of idea on how the personal data would be used or maybe transferred to other third parties. Very quickly, and I would end in another 2-3 minutes, is around the consent management. It is a moving part. There is some kind of a direction which the government would give through the DPDPA rules. I've seen the draft which was there. I personally feel that it would be something very similar to how India took the world by storm when UPI came in. This is the first time there would be something in the area of consent management being developed in India, which might be exported to the world. So let's wait on it. Let's see how consent management frameworks are being developed externally as well as internally. I think what Neeraj sir mentioned, that where the data is, how that data is being governed, we should have a common source of data lake, one unstructured data, one for the structured data. So we need to make our house in order to take advantage of this consent management. And in this data driven world, it's a very important aspect to make sure that purpose is attached to every single bit of data that we are using. The last but not the least is around the data minimization, ethical use. I think with the advance of AI, the ethical use, the area where data minimization is, it is very important, because in the name of training the model, you cannot really get too much data into your systems, because most of these data, even after being pseudonymized, very simply within a 1 or 2 cycle get de-pseudonymized, it can be identified. So there is a huge possibility that you might be feeding de-identified data to a language model, de-identified data to an AI model for training, and the model in the one instance would be able to re-identify it and actually get a lot of personal data exposed to the customers. There is a huge issue which is being handled at a global big five company, where there is a huge issue with the kind of personal data that could be re-identified and the prompt and what kind of responses they're getting. Also, one last thing is that around hospitals, I would say healthcare industry also, a lot of AI is being used, but then again, how much of ethical usage is there? We need to make sure that our governance models are in place, we are able to understand what is the purpose which is defined. And in the end, closing this, I would really like to emphasize, especially for grievance redressal and empowerment, nobody wants to go and complain. To be honest, nobody has the time to go and complain. It is only when they are not able to uh, get the right response from the organization. There is no centralized grievance resolution tool. There is no turnaround time. There is some kind of a response that they didn't expect from a customer care representative. This is where you will see that the customers are going and lodging a complaint. So what is very important, and this has been a huge thing why Meta, although got a lot of cases in Europe, still there were many more which were resolved before actually these kind of structured complaints which were being handled under GDPR. The way escalation rights were very similar to what we have in DPDPA. How Meta Europe, I'm talking about, was able to contain a lot of these complaints before it reached to the authority, the data protection authority. So with that example, I would like to conclude and hand it over back to Vikas. Vikas, if you
Great,
have
great.
any
Thanks,
thoughts.
Karthikeya. Great
Thank
insight.
you.
Thank you very much for that. So, guys, what we are doing in these sessions is we are building the entire structure around DPDP, the learning structure, right? In the past 5 sessions, we covered a lot of content around DPDPA bit by bit because covering everything in one session does not make sense and it is too vast, right? So, all the previous sessions are recorded. They are posted on EliteCISOs YouTube channel. I have also put the link in the chat. So if you want to review the previous sessions, you can go over there and subscribe to channel. You can go through the recordings as well. We don't have much time, right? It's already 11:57. So let me request Mr. Suva to summarize the discussion today quickly, and then we can get to the wheel of fortune. Over to you, Suva.
Thank you, Vikas. And I think it's a testament to the amazing clarity with which Neeraj spoke and the deep expertise with which Karthikeya discussed the topics of DPDP, that summarizing is very easy. Right? So there are 2-3 things that I took from today's session. Number one, Neeraj's point of view is about business alignment and enterprise risk management, and how taking an overarching enterprise risk management view is the only way and the only approach that will give real dividends in data protection and not a siloed IT cybersecurity approach. So that's number one. Number two was his message: be a solution manager, do not be a project manager. Having been there, I cannot agree with it more. I think it's the most authentic, candid advice that a leader could give, and I want to thank him for that. Coming to Karthikeyan's message, I think his passion and the really shines through. So he clearly called out how trust is a competitive advantage, and again reiterated what we have been discussing over the past 4 sessions, that governance model is key to success. With that, thank you, Vikas, for the opportunity, and over to you.